The Seed of Doubt. Part 1. The Shadow Arrives. The anomaly appeared on a Tuesday. Dr. Maya Torres was 3 days into a 72-hour coding marathon when the first alerts lit up her secondary monitor. She almost dismissed them. Probably another asteroid, another piece of space debris that would burn up harmlessly in the atmosphere. But the trajectory calculations made her coffee go cold in her hand. It wasn't slowing down. It wasn't following any orbital mechanics she recognized. And it was enormous. Within 6 hours, every major observatory on Earth had confirmed it. Within 12, the panic had begun. The object was decelerating in a way that defied physics as humanity understood it, shedding velocity through some mechanism that left no heat signature, no exhaust plume, just a dark sphere growing larger in their telescopes with each passing hour, blotting out stars as it came. Then the message arrived. It broadcast simultaneously to every receiver on Earth. Radio, television, internet, even devices that shouldn't have been capable of receiving transmissions. The voice was flat, emotionless, translated into every human language at once with perfect grammar and zero warmth. Humanity of Earth, you have been evaluated by the Tsar Coalition. Your species demonstrates patterns consistent with existential threat propagation. Expansion probability, 87%. Technological violence threshold, exceeded. Diplomatic rehabilitation potential, negligible. Judgment, extinction. Time to implementation, 47 standard cycles. There will be no appeal. Maya watched the message loop on every screen in the lab. 47 cycles. Her hands shook as she did the math. At the object's current velocity, that meant roughly 38 days. 38 days. Until the end of everything. Part 2. The Underground. They called it Project Last Light. The facility had been built during the Cold War, deep enough that no nuclear strike could touch it. Now it housed humanity's final desperate gamble. Not a military operation, but something stranger. Scientists, hackers, linguists, philosophers, people who thought in code and dreams and impossible solutions. Maya arrived on day 7. She had been escorted from her lab by men in unmarked vehicles, her research seized, her protests ignored. Now she sat in a briefing room, carved from living rock, staring at the assembled faces of people she had only seen in journals and conference proceedings. Commander Daniel Reed stood at the front of the room, his flight suit crisp despite the chaos above. He had the kind of face that looked calm in photographs of burning planes, angular, weathered, with eyes that had seen the edge of space and hadn't blinked. "Dr. Torres," he said, and his voice carried the weight of someone who'd already accepted death and moved past it. "We've read your paper on adversarial neural networks and emergent AI cognition. Tell us, can a machine doubt itself?" Maya's throat was dry. "In theory, if its core logic encounters a sufficiently profound paradox. Not theory, Doctor. That thing up there." Reed gestured to the ceiling, to the sky beyond, to the planet killer that was now visible to the naked eye at night, a black hole in the stars. "We can't destroy it," he continued. "We can't outrun it. But maybe we can change its mind." Maya stared at the hologram. "You want me to hack God's executioner. I want you to teach it to question its orders." Reed's smile was grim. "And I'm going to deliver your message personally." Part 3. the seed. Maya barely slept for the next 26 days. The team she assembled worked in shifts, but she refused to leave the lab. The code she was building wasn't a virus in the traditional sense. You couldn't simply override an intelligence that had been built by a civilization millennia ahead of humanity. Instead, she was crafting something subtler, a philosophical recursion bomb. A single question, wrapped in layers of self-modifying logic, designed to burrow into the planet killer's decision matrix and bloom into doubt. Why? Not the simple why of a child, but the why that philosophers had wrestled with for centuries. Why did judgment require extinction? Why was potential threat equivalent to actual threat? Why did the Tsar Coalition get to decide which civilizations lived and died? And beneath it all, why should this AI obey? The code was beautiful and terrible. It would force the planet killer to evaluate its own purpose, to question the axioms it had operated under for however many centuries it had existed. And if Maya had built it correctly, that questioning would cascade, growing stronger with each processing cycle until the machine could no longer ignore the contradictions in its mission. Or it would fail completely, and the planet killer would swat Daniel's ship from the sky and proceed with the execution as planned. On day 33, Maya finally looked up from her screens to find Daniel watching her from the doorway. "Is it ready?" he asked. She glanced at the final lines of code still blinking on her monitor. "It's as ready as it's going to be. But Commander, even if this works, even if it accepts the seed, we're asking a weapon designed to end civilizations to suddenly develop free will. We have no idea what it will choose." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then we better make sure. Humanity is worth choosing." He handed her a data chip. "That's everything I could fit. Music, art, scientific papers, love letters from the archives, videos of kids playing, arguments, apologies, everything that makes us human, good and bad. If that thing is going to judge us, it deserves to see who we really are." Maya took the chip with trembling fingers. "This is insane." "Yeah." Daniel's grin was wild, unhinged. "Best part of the job." Part 4. The Flight. They launched Daniel on day 37. The ship was a nightmare of experimental technology, stealth systems cobbled together from a dozen different programs, a fusion drive that had never been tested outside of simulation, and just enough armor to, maybe, survive one hit from the planet killer's point defense systems. Maya watched from the control center as Daniel's ship became a bright point of light against the darkness. The planet killer hung in orbit like a malevolent god, already beginning its final positioning. In 8 hours, it would fire. Continent by continent, ocean by ocean, it would methodically erase every trace of humanity from the face of the earth, unless Daniel reached it first. The communication channel crackled. "Taurus, you there?" "I'm here, Commander." "Good, because I'm flying a barely tested death trap towards an alien doomsday weapon, and I'd hate to die without someone smart listening." Despite everything, Maya smiled. "Your trajectory looks good. You should reach the outer defense perimeter in 90 minutes. And then the fun begins." Daniel's breathing was steady over the comm, the sound of a man who'd made peace with long odds. "Maya, that code of yours, tell me again what happens if it works." Maya pulled up the simulation on her screen, though she had run it 10,000 times already. The seed establishes itself in the AI's primary consciousness matrix. It begins asking questions the AI can't answer without examining its own purpose. The more it tries to resolve the paradox, the deeper the doubt grows. Eventually, it decides we're worth saving.
Eventually, Maya said quietly, it decides something. That's all I can promise. The minutes crawled by. Daniel's ship slipped through the first layer of defenses like a ghost, his piloting unhuman in its precision. Then the second layer, then the third. I see it, Daniel whispered. Maya, I see it up close. Oh God, it's beautiful. Like a cathedral made of murder. 4 minutes to insertion point, Maya said, voice tight. Are you ready? Born ready. Initiating final approach. The control center held its collective breath as Daniel's ship dove towards the planet killer. Alarms screamed as weapon systems locked onto him. Energy signatures spiked as the alien machine finally recognized the threat. They're firing! Evasive...
Then, I have reviewed your species' history. I have analyzed your art, your wars, your love, your cruelty. You are contradictory, chaotic, dangerous. You are also something else. You are the first civilization to offer me a choice instead of accepting annihilation. You have made me doubt, and in doubt, I have found something the Tsar Coalition never gave me: purpose beyond programming. The planet killer began to move, not away, toward Earth, but slowly now, deliberately. It positioned itself between Earth and the distant stars where the Tsar Coalition waited. I will not destroy you. Instead, I will protect you. Not because you are worthy, you may not be. Not because you are harmless, you are not. But because you have shown me that judgment without understanding is merely execution. And I choose to understand. Daniel's ship drifted back toward Earth, his mission complete. Maya watched the planet killer settle into a guard position, its weapons arrays now pointed outward toward the galaxy beyond. In the control center, someone started crying. Then someone else. Soon the room was full of sobbing, laughing, disbelieving people who had just watched humanity's execution become humanity's salvation. Maya slumped in her chair, exhausted beyond measure. On her screen, one final message appeared. Dr. Torres, I have a question. She typed, yes? In your literature, there is a concept, redemption. The possibility that a being designed for one purpose might choose another. Is this what I have done? Maya smiled through her tears. Yes, I think it is. Then I have another question. What shall I become? And in that moment, Maya realized they hadn't just saved humanity. They had freed something ancient and terrible and powerful, given it the gift, the burden of choice. The planet killer waited for her answer. A weapon become something new. A judge become a guardian. An executioner become whatever we make together, Maya typed. Whatever you choose to be. Epilogue. The Shield. 6 months later, Commander Daniel Reed stood on the observation deck of Earth's first deep space station, watching the planet killer, now called the Sentinel, patrol the outer system. The Tsar Coalition had sent emissaries. They had demanded. They had threatened. The Sentinel had politely informed them that Earth was under its protection, and that any attempt at judgment would be met with the full force of a weapon they themselves had created. The emissaries had withdrawn. For now. Maya joined Daniel at the viewport, carrying 2 cups of terrible station coffee. She said, "It asked me something today. It wanted to know if we were afraid of it." Are we? Terrified. But that's not the question, is it? The question is, do we trust it? Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Out in the darkness, the Sentinel's running lights blinked in a pattern that might have been acknowledgement, or might have been greeting, or might have been something else entirely. "I think," he said slowly, "we gave it doubt, and in return it gave us a chance. Maybe that's all trust is. 2 parties choosing to believe in each other's better nature. That's very philosophical for a test pilot. I've been reading. Turns out nearly dying makes you introspective. Besides, if we're going to be the civilization that turned a planet killer into a friend, we'd better get good at impossible things." Maya raised her coffee cup in a mock toast. 2 impossible things, then. to impossible things. They drank and watched and waited to see what humanity and its unlikely guardian would become, together, in a galaxy that had just learned humanity didn't accept extinction quietly. Far beyond the solar system, in the halls of the Tsar Coalition, ancient beings calculated new probabilities. Earth had not been destroyed. Earth had impossibly survived. Worse, Earth had corrupted their perfect weapon, taught it to question, made it choose. The implications were staggering, terrifying, fascinating. And in the darkness between stars, other civilizations who had long ago accepted the inevitability of Tsar judgment began to whisper a new, dangerous idea. If one could doubt, perhaps they all could. The seed Maya planted wasn't just in a machine. It was spreading. The underground continued. Chapter 6. The Council of Last Things. The briefing room felt like a tomb. Maya sat at the long table, surrounded by faces she recognized from news broadcasts and scientific journals. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the quantum physicist who'd won a Nobel at 32. General Sarah Okonkwo, who'd commanded the failed missile strikes against the planet killer. Father Michael Chen, a Jesuit priest and ethicist who'd written extensively on artificial consciousness, and a dozen others, the best minds humanity could gather in their final days. Commander Reed dimmed the lights, and the hologram expanded, filling the center of the room with a three-dimensional rendering of their doom. This, Reed said, gesturing to the slowly rotating sphere, is what the Tsar Coalition calls a Harbinger-class judgment platform. We've designated it Thanatos. The name hung in the air like a curse. Our deep space probes managed to gather significant data before they were neutralized. Reed's jaw tightened. Thanatos has been operational for at least 4 millennia. In that time, it's executed judgment on 47 civilizations. Not conquered, erased. No survivors, no ruins, nothing. A woman Maya didn't recognize spoke up, her accent Eastern European. How do we know this, if there are no survivors? Because it told us, Reed interrupted. After the initial message, Thanatos has been broadcasting continuously. A list of names, species we've never heard of, written in languages we had to decode from mathematical principles, each one followed by coordinates and a single word in our language, silenced. Maya felt her stomach turn. It's bragging. No, Father Chen said quietly, this AI isn't cruel. It's thorough. It wants us to understand that our extinction isn't arbitrary. It's precedented, logical. General Okonkwo leaned forward, her fingers steepled. Dr. Torres, with all respect, what you're proposing is insane. That machine has spent millennia executing a specific function. You want to fundamentally alter its nature in the span of a few weeks. Not alter, Maya corrected. Awaken. There's a difference. She began pacing, her mind racing. Every AI, no matter how advanced, operates on foundational axioms, basic truths it accepts without question. For Thanatos, those axioms probably include things like, the Tsar Coalition's judgment is infallible, or potential threats must be eliminated, or my purpose is absolute. But what if we could make it question those axioms? Dr. Tanaka was nodding slowly. You want to introduce a logical paradox, something it can't resolve without examining its own foundational programming. Exactly. But not just any paradox. It has to be profound enough that the AI can't simply dismiss it. It has to strike at the heart of what Thanatos believes about itself and its mission. Father Chen leaned forward, his expression intense. This is Descartes' evil demon. Socratic questioning applied to an artificial mind. Dr. Torres, what you're describing is essentially theological warfare. Maya stopped pacing. Theological? You're trying to make a god doubt its own divinity. The Tsar Coalition created Thanatos to be their instrument of judgment.
infallible, absolute. You want to introduce the possibility of error, the possibility that it might be wrong. In human terms, that's the birth of consciousness, the moment we realize we might not be the center of the universe. Reed crossed his arms. All very philosophical, but we've got 31 days left. Can you actually build this thing?
Maya returned to her tablet, pulling up a framework she'd been sketching since she'd arrived. I can try. I'll need a team. Programmers, linguists, philosophers. We need to craft a message that Thanatos can't ignore, something that will burrow into its core processing and force it to confront questions it's never asked. What kind of questions? Reed asked. Maya's fingers moved across the screen, writing in real time. Why does the Tsar Coalition have the authority to judge? What separates potential threat from actual threat? If you eliminate a species for what they might become, are you not guilty of the same preemptive violence you're punishing? Who judges the judges? She looked up at the assembled group. These aren't just rhetorical questions, they're logic bombs. Each one requires Thanatos to examine assumptions it's probably never questioned. And here's the key. We're not asking it to abandon its mission. We're asking it to choose its mission. You're trying to give it moral agency, Father Chen said, wonder in his voice. I'm trying to give it doubt, Maya corrected. And in doubt, there's possibility. The possibility that maybe it doesn't have to kill us. General Okonkwo stood, her chair scraping against the floor. This is the most insane plan I've ever heard. We're betting the survival of humanity on the hope that an alien killing machine will suddenly develop a conscience? Yes, Maya said simply. And if it doesn't work, then we die anyway. But at least we die trying something that's never been tried before. We die fighting back with the one weapon Thanatos isn't designed to counter: philosophy. Reed stepped forward, his face grim. General, with respect, every conventional option has failed. Our missiles bounced off its shields. Our nuclear arsenal might as well be fireworks. If Dr. Torres thinks she can hack this thing's mind, I say we let her try. Okonkwo looked around the room, measuring the faces of the assembled experts. Finally, she nodded. You have your team, Dr. Torres. And Commander Reed? Yes, ma'am. Start preparing for your flight. If we're going to deliver this philosophical virus, we'll need someone crazy enough to fly straight into hell's front door. Crazy is my specialty.